ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ Mantra number 7. Yes sarvagnyas sarvavidyasesha mahima bhuvi divye brahmapure khyeshah vyomni atma pratisthitah manomayah pranashareeraneta pratisthito anne hridayam sannidhaya तद्विज्ञानेन परिपश्यन्ति धीराः आनन्दरूपम् अमृतं यद्विभाति यः सर्वज्ञः सर्ववित् यस्यैष महिमा भुवि. So this Parameshwara is a Sarvajnah Sarvavit, one who knows everything in general as well as everything in detail because of the Upadhi. And this two word basically reveals Parameshwara. And I compared it with the vice person also. Vice person also is a Sarvajnah, but he is not Sarvavit, because the Upadhi is a ignorance, and so Avidya Upadhi is there, or mind, etc. And therefore he doesn't have everything in detail. Therefore, so vice person and even though this Parameshwara, both are ultimately, even though they are all knowing in terms of they know the essence of the creation, essence of oneself, essence of Ishvara, everything. But the details in the creation, etc. is not known, basically. So that is due to Maya Upadhi only. And so that's how the difference between Jiva, that is a wise person, and this Ishvara continue in as much as from the standpoint of Upadhi. Wise person is Brahman from the standpoint of Atma. Wise person is a Jiva from the standpoint of Upadhi. Antakarana Upadhi, Avidya Upadhi. So the ignorance of two types, and one kind of ignorance goes away, other kind of ignorance continues, and that's how still wise person can be called as Jiva from that Tula Vidya, etc. Tula Vidya, as I told you, Mula Vidya is the ignorance pertaining to the self, and Tula Vidya is ignorance pertaining to the every other thing other than the self. And so ignorance pertaining to every other thing in the creation will continue. Ignorance pertaining to the self goes away for the wise person. And therefore, definitely this, that's how, from the standpoint of Upadhi, this Upadhi, Tula Vidya, etc., there is a difference between Jiva and Ishvara. But from the standpoint of a Mula Vidya, that is gone away. So, Ishvara is also Sarvajnah, and this wise person, Jiva, also is Sarvajnah. Jiva who knows that I am the self, I am Brahman, he is also basically, he is a Ishvara. Yeah, he is a Ishvara. Because Brahman alone manifests in the form of Jagat. So Brahman is a cause and Jagat is a effect. Then cause and effect, what is the difference? Nothing. What is manifest also is this Brahman. And therefore, what is left over is just Ishvara alone. And therefore, because there is no effect between cause and there is no difference between cause and effect. So cause alone appears in the form of effect. That's how Shastra says, Sarvam Kholidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. So when say everything, Miss Shastra is seeing some everything, right? So this name and form. Yeah, and therefore he can say I am Ishvara. Swamiji, I should not say I am Ishvara. Ishvara is Sarvagna Sarvavita. So when you say I am not Ishvara, that I is again with the Upadhi, then you will tell. So from the standpoint of Brahman, Brahman is the cause of the creation. So whatever is the effect is basically Brahman alone, right? And therefore, well, then that Brahman is you. Means you are everything. You are the very cause of the creation and you are this effect. And therefore, whatever you are seeing is Ishvara alone, if as a effect. And the very cause also is basically is Brahman alone. And therefore, there is no difference. Whatever you are seeing, it is mithya, that's okay. But that is also, name and form also, is ultimately Brahman alone. So, well, you say a pot and pot, clay and pot, cause and effect. Well, it's a clay alone. So, that way, he says, I am Ishvara. Yeah, I am cause of the creation. And I am being the cause of the creation, that is Bhinna Nimitta Upadana Karan. Whatever is there is me alone. Right? The self alone is everything. And therefore, well, Ishvara also says what? I am everything. Ishvara also says this. So please try to understand. So I am different from Ishvara when you say then you will bring the Upadhi, Avidya Upadhi. Not from that standpoint. I am saying I as a Lakshartha, Brahman. Basically, I am everything. What is there as a effect, so-called mithya, whatever. Still, I am alone there. So, Sarvatma, etc. we say also. This wise person has become a Sarvatma. So, Sarvatma means Sarvasya Atma. So, when you say Sarvasya Atma, then at least you take into account Sarvam, all. So, whatever is there, so that is how it is. Anyway, this is just by the way. So, I was little bit, little bit having a doubt that you may say, how Ishvara, etc. Ultimately, that, and this is the equation has been brought here. That's the equation. So, when this Avidya Upadhi, the Mula Vidya goes, there is no difference between you and Ishvara, basically. So, Ishvara also Sarvagnya, Ishvara also knows himself, and you say, I also know everything. Ishvara says, I also know everything. So, what you know everything? Everything is nothing but the self. Wise person says. What Ishvara says? I am everything. What is the difference? No difference. Yeah, please understand this. Yeah, but then the detail of every name and form. So that wise person will not have, definitely. So that be Avidya Upadhi, that Avidya will continue, Tula Vidya. So that is how Ishvara is Sarvagnya Sarvavit and wise person also is Sarvagnya, not Sarvavit. And then, and through Maya Upadhi only he has manifested everything. Well, and therefore, that's a Yasya Yasya Mahima Bhuvi, basically. But Brahman through Maya Mithya Upadhi alone has manifested in the form of this Mithya Jagat. And therefore, it's a very interesting thing. It's a just fantastic thing. These two mantras, really. In fact, all the rest of the mantras also, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi also, they are all talking about this result of this knowledge. Very, very beautifully has been told. Anyway, Yasya Esha Mahima Bhuvi, Yasya Ishvarasya. Well, this is all this Mahima, this is the glory of this Ishvara, who is a Sarvavit, whose knowledge alone has manifested in the form of this Jagat through Maya. Well, and therefore, the Sarvavit alone is manifest in the form of this Jagat. And so whatever is there is ultimately Ishvara alone. And Esha Mahima means, well, that which is very well known to one through the perception. That's how Esha means this. This means it is well known to you. But it is well known for the people who appreciate it. Otherwise it is not. Everyone is, world is available for perception for everyone. But this is a Mahima of a glory of a Ishvara. Ishvara alone has manifested in all these forms. And looking everything as a Ishvara is definitely requires a knowledge of Ishvara. And so that, and what kind of knowledge? Ishvara is a Sarvagnya, Sarvavit. Anyway, and well then, so this is how, and this Ishvara who is Sarvagnya, Sarvavit has manifested into all these forms. And therefore, here also now, it comes to here, as a Veshti Atma. But the same consciousness has manifested in the form of this Jagat. Brahman has manifested in the form of this Jagat. that Brahman or consciousness is here also. And here also there is a mind. And right? Here means here in this Vyashti Upadhi. And the Vyashti has come from what? Here consciousness is Brahman. Mind is Brahman. Physical body is Brahman. Then why do you say Vyashti? Because the Upadhi is bit different. A bit different. And that is consciousness with a ignorance Upadhi. And therefore, Ajnana Upadhi. And therefore now it becomes condition. How it becomes a condition? Because with the self-ignorance, now mind etc. he does not say it is Ishvara. He says, I am this. So consciousness with the Avidya Upadhi identifies with a given body, mind, sense complex and create an idea of a individuality. Even though this is a part of Ishvara alone, who is manifest in all the forms, including all elements and elementals and everything, my mind, your body, my body. But that my and your etc. has come because the in between this consciousness and this name and form, even though they are non-separate, but the Upadhi is little different. And that Upadhi is a ignorance, Avidya Upadhi. And that is how when Avidya Upadhi is there, then the self, is identified with this, consciousness identified with this body, mind, sense complex and creates an idea of a Vyashti within Ishvara Srushti. Within Ishvara Srushti alone. Yeah. So everything is ultimately Ishvara alone. We have seen that. But still, now the idea has come because of the Upadhi. That Upadhi, Avidya Upadhi. And so Vyashti idea has come. And other than that, everything is Samashti. And so I say, I am this, I am Jiva, and I am this. And Ishvara is a Samashti. Ishvara is different from me. That idea comes due to Avidya. Dvaitam comes due to Avidya. So it's really a fantastic thing. Where Ishvara is Sarvajnaha, so he knows himself. So he identifies with everything. And he says, I am everything. And if Avidya Upadhi is there, then the same Brahman consciousness identified with a given body, mind, sense complex. And say, I am this. And definitely you have an idea of an individuality. The idea of individuality has come. And so this is the difference between this. Ishvara identifies with every name and form, whole physical universe. Like I identified with this physical body, Ishvara identifies with physical universe. He says, I am Virat. And when he says, I am Virat, he identifies with my body also. Naturally. But then I identify with a given body. And so I say, I am this. Ishvara says, your body is me alone. He identifies with the entire physical body. That's how Virat Purusha, you have seen these Dhyana shlokas. There they say this, of a Virat Purusha, this Svarga is basically head. And what is that? This sun and moon are their eyes. And fire is the mouth. And all these rivers, etc., are this, the blood vessels, etc. And the earth is the feet, etc. So that is how that is also physical universe has been depicted as this physical body only, because consciousness identified with the entire physical body, entire physical universe through Maya Upadhi, because Maya alone has manifested into this form, and that through that Upadhi, he identified with physical universe also. And so Ishvara with a Maya Upadhi, Brahman with the Maya Upadhi is Ishvara. Manifest into subtle universe. Identify with the subtle universe. Manifest into gross universe. Identify with the gross universe. And he identified with gross universe means it includes my physical body also and my subtle body also. So then where am I? Now you can see, where am I? Really speaking, I am a Jiva, and what belongs to really me? Nothing. Could you follow now? There is nothing left except through Avidya Upadhi. I identify with this body. There is a sense of I-ness and minus. I and mine, basically. Aham mama iti, etc. Aham mama iti adhyasa. So this is adhyasa, actually, which belongs to Ishvara Srishti, but you basically say it is me. And when avidya goes away, what is left over? Please tell me now. When avidya goes away, I won't identify with this. I will say I am consciousness, I am Brahman. then Brahman manifests with the whole physical universe. It's a fact. Brahman will definitely manifest into this whole universe, and therefore the defect also is nothing but Brahman. Cause also is Brahman, and therefore definitely there is no difference, no distance also between me and Ishvara. The distance is created between Jiva and Ishvara is due to avidya upadhi. This is avidya upadhi. There is no distance at all. My thought also is included in Ishvara's subtle universe, and my senses are included there. And then definitely nothing is left. The consciousness is Brahman, and this physical body which is mithya, etc., subtle body which is mithya, etc., is also part of Ishvara Srishti only. That is also part of this Jagat only. And therefore, that's how they say you are Ishvara. Definitely, it's very much correct. When you keep a distance between the two, definitely avidya upadhi alone is there. There is nothing else which allows a distance between you and Ishvara. Anyway, this is my struggle to convey to you that there is you are part of total and all. That is okay. That's how Mandukya. No Upanishad keeps a distance. When they describe Virat, Vishwa, they think they have described Virat, and therefore, or they describe Virat, Vishwa is included. So when you bring in a vision of a Ishvara, then individuality is swallowed. Ishvara says, I am everything. Ishvara does not have a Dvaita Darshanam, otherwise he will be called ignorant. If Ishvara says, Jiva is different from me, it is a Dvaita Drashti. And Dvaita Drashti means, therefore, it is ignorance. Therefore, Ishvara has one vision. Just as I am pervading this entire physical body, he pervades the entire physical universe, including my physical body. And he has an eye sense in my body also. I have an eye sense in this same body also. Then who is really a claimant? You can understand now very well. Who can be a claimant? Well, we have to tell this Ishvara alone, who is a Sarvavit, and through Maya Upadhi alone he manifests in the form of Jagat, and therefore Maya is non-separate from Ishvara, Brahman, and therefore Jagat also is non-separate from Brahman, and therefore definitely the Jagat so-called effect and the Brahman which is a cause, well, they are one and the same thing. Both are Brahman alone. One we call Mithya because it is non-separate. It derives existence from Brahman, etc. And therefore, anyway, Brahman is Satyam. Well, that's a different issue. But basically, what is Ishvara. Now you can understand. What is Ishvara is this. Not that just saying Brahman and totally, what is experience calls names and forms are totally avoided. No, nothing. It covers, it's a vision of the whole. That's how they call. It's a vision of the wholeness. Wholeness means wholeness. Nothing is excluded. So whatever there is Ishvara. Please understand this. So this is a wonderful thing where this is a Tattvamasi only. But that the Jiva is told that you are that Ishvara who is Sarvagniha Sarvavit, who has manifested in the form of this Jagat. Because the difference, so-called difference between you and Ishvara is that through Maya Upadhi and Avidya Upadhi, etc., both are Mithya, and therefore the division also based on the Upadhi also is Mithya. Really, you and Ishvara are one alone. Whatever there is, either you say you are everything, either Ishvara says I am everything, or you say I am everything. Same thing. I am Brahman who has manifested in all these forms, or Ishvara says I am Brahman manifest in all these forms. Same thing. When Avidya Upadhi goes away, then definitely automatically Maya Upadhi also goes away, and whatever is left over is this one thing alone. So anyway, here it has been immediately in the verse number 8, it has been compared, with this and Manomaya Prana Shariraneta. Now same Atma, same Ishvara who is Sarvagna Sarvavit is Manomaya. They come down to the level of Tvam. Ishvara who is Sarvagna Sarvavit Tatpada said it is Manomaya. Manomaya means here It is recognized as through the modifications of the mind. And the same Atma is manifest here, who is in the form of Ishvara and who is Sarvagna Sarvavit. Same Atma is manifest here. Divye Brahmapure Vyomni Yesha Atma Pratishtita hai. So this self-evident Atma abides here in this Buddhi, in the space of the Buddhi. I told you, because all the thoughts are accommodated by the Buddhi, and thoughts are accommodated means thoughts are non-separate from basically what is available in the Buddhi. In Buddhi available is this Sakshi, consciousness is available. It's manifest there, and therefore Brahman is recognized there. But then they are saying in a Brahmapura, this Brahman is there. Yeah, that's true, very much. Because it doesn't manifest as Brahman anywhere. It manifests in the Buddhi. And therefore you will feel it is there only. Like electricity does not manifest anywhere. Electricity manifests in the bulb. So you say electricity is there in the bulb. But it is not true. Electricity is recognized in the bulb. It's not in the bulb. Yeah. Electricity is everywhere. It is because since it manifests in the bulb, you say it is there in the bulb, but it is recognized in the bulb. That's how it is. And therefore, same way, so this Buddhi, where consciousness manifests, well, so they say is a Brahmapura, where that is where this Brahman resides. Or Brahman exists. Brahman is this Buddhi is abode for this Brahman. It's not. Buddhi is where Brahman is recognized. And it is in the space of the Buddhi, while they say, etc. That is, basically, like everything is accommodated in the space, thoughts are accommodated in the consciousness, obtaining in the Buddhi. Nothing is separate from the consciousness. So everything is accommodated. The space is accommodated in the consciousness. And therefore, so here in Buddhi, in the space of the Buddhi, everything is, in the space of the Buddhi, this consciousness manifest or recognized. So in the Buddhi itself, it is recognized. And because then in the space, it has been told, because all the thoughts are accommodated by the consciousness obtaining in the Buddhi. And therefore it has been told. And that is how, and so, okay, that's true, Brahman is recognized in the Buddhi. But Brahman is everywhere, so you can recognize everywhere. I want to recognize here. I want to recognize here, Brahman. You say Brahman is everywhere, is sarvavyapi. So why should you say Brahman is recognized in the Buddhi? That's a good question. Brahman is recognized. But Brahman is everywhere. You may recognize here and you may not be able to recognize here. You may, because consciousness is not manifest as a consciousness here. Very much. Would you follow? And therefore to recognize consciousness, Brahman, which is nothing but a consciousness, you have to find a medium where it has manifest. So electricity can be recognized at any point because it is there in all the wires. But it's very easy to recognize there in the bulb because it has manifest there. And therefore, same way, and the second thing is, consciousness or Brahman is basically is everywhere. That's correct. But how? Then how can one recognize it in a particular place? That's what I am answering. Where one recognizes everything, there alone you have to recognize Brahman. Okay? So don't say here and then take another thing and and then in that you recognize, in that you recognize, in that you recognize. Where you recognize everything, there you recognize Brahman. It's over. Don't take one object and say, I want to recognize Brahman here. Then what about the second object? What about the third object? What about the fourth object? No. Leave it. Where Brahman being everywhere, everywhere, everything is recognized where? There itself Brahman should be there. Yeah, everything is recognized in the Buddhi and therefore Brahman is recognized in the Buddhi. Okay, and therefore simultaneously, need not search for an object, and it is very difficult to recognize consciousness in this. Very difficult. So whereas the Buddhi is a place where consciousness is manifest as consciousness. and therefore definitely it is recognized there. And so that is how it's called Upalabdhisthanam. Brahman Buddhi is called Upalabdhisthanam, a place of recognition. And so, and for the all pervasive Brahman there cannot be a location, and therefore Buddhi is not a location. Buddhi is a place to recognize Brahman, and Buddhi is a place to recognize everything. And Brahman pervades everything. So where everything is recognized, there itself Brahman is to be recognized. And therefore, that Brahman, that's the only place in the whole world where Brahman is recognized. Even though it is everywhere, but where the Brahman is recognized in the Buddhi, because everything is recognized in the Buddhi. And therefore, Brahman also is recognized in the Buddhi. And Divye, that's how, Divye Brahmapure. Brahmapura means this Buddhi, which is Divyam, which is effulgent, which is conscious. Naturally, consciousness manifests in the Buddhi, and so Buddhi becomes conscious. And therefore, that is where it is recognized. So Brahman is, they say, locate Brahmapura, Brahma is as though located there, but in fact everything is located in Brahman. So, anyway, but now this Manomaya, this Atma is a Manomaya, it's a wonderful thing. This the same consciousness, has, this Brahman has a Upadhi called this mind. Manomaya means the mind is an Upadhi. And Bhashyakara says, Sahi Atma Tatrastha Manovrittibihi Vibhavyate iti Manomayah Manaha Upaditvat. And therefore, Manomaya means mind is Upadhi for the same Brahman or consciousness, the Atma. And and so through this Manomaya, by the various modification, Manomaya, Maya is for Vikara. So, through the various modifications of the mind, Brahman is recognized. So, therefore, Atma is called Manomaya. So, Atma or the Brahman is recognized by modifications of the mind, and it's called Manomaya. So, in this Vyashti Atma, so-called Vyashti Atma, that is recognized here. Kutastha is recognized, Sakshi is recognized by the modifications of the mind, and hence it is called Manomaya. Because any thoughts that obtain in the mind reveals the presence of the Sakshi. That's how it is. Reveals the presence of consciousness, which is invariably there. Pratibodha viditam matam. Bodham pratiyad viditam. Etc. etc. And so, and we have applied this Anvaya Vyatireka logic there. And definitely when a thought is there, definitely consciousness is there. When a thought is not there, consciousness is still there. And therefore, the consciousness is basically, the Chaitanya Atma is there when a thought is not there. And so that is invariably present. Consciousness is invariably present, whereas the thought keeps on changing. That's how it's called modifications. So every thought reveals, basically, every cognition reveals consciousness, which is invariably present in every, like pot cognition and computer cognition and this cognition and mobile cognition and clip cognition. Definitely something is variable, because you are saying in number of cognitions. So something variable is there in that, and that is that particular thought, pot thought, etc. That is variable, but the consciousness which is there in every thought, present in every thought. How can you say it is present in every thought? Because it has manifested in the Buddhi, and therefore it is there, and therefore definitely it is recognized as a Manomaya consciousness, which is recognized in the Buddhi. How? As a Manomaya. As a Manomaya means through all varieties of the modifications of the mind, I recognize Brahman, which is consciousness, which is invariably present in every cognition. And in these two things, invariable and variable, variable is non-separate from invariable. And pot is basically pot and clay. So thought and consciousness are not two entities, basically. It is not like a table and chair. It is like a pot and clay. So that's how Anvaya Vyatireka. Pot is, clay is. Pot is not, clay is. Same way thought is, consciousness is. Thought is not, consciousness is. And therefore, definitely, thought being non-separate from the consciousness, thoughts are mithya, etc., variable, and consciousness is present in the buddhi, is recognized in the buddhi as an invariable thing. How to recognize in buddhi? This is how we have to recognize. So the variable thought has no independent reality. Invariable consciousness alone is the satyam. So this is called manomaya. This is called manomaya. What is non-separate, basically, and from the satyam. This variable is nothing but a manifestation of invariable. What is variable is nothing but a manifestation of invariable alone. What is mithya is nothing but a manifestation of satyam. That's how it is. What is this pot and etc. is nothing but a manifestation of clay only. And same way, Atma can be called manomaya also. Means Atma is nothing but which manifests in the form of all the thoughts, various modifications of the mind. You can say that way. Atma can be recognized by various modifications of the mind, or Atma can be called, Atma can be said as a which manifests in the form of various modifications of the mind. Anyway, so manomaya. Because ultimately everything is Atma, means you can take it in with any upadhi. It's of course with a upadhi, mind upadhi. Definitely. Atma is manomaya, means with a mind upadhi. You recognize as with a upadhi. Either it's a Jagat upadhi called Ishvara, or either it is a manomaya upadhi. It is Ishvara alone. Mind is Ishvara. The consciousness is Ishvara. Then what is left over? What is left over? So, the one who is Sarvagnya Sarvavit, who has manifested in the form of the entire Jagat, is that Atma is here Manomaya. So, this is Tat and Tvam are compared. Even if you, this is my request, in case if you feel it is too much, but keep a note and then ask me. But please understand, appreciation of the total, appreciation of the wholeness gives you lot of satisfaction. So, taking yourself as an individual separate from the creation, that alienation alone is really hurting us a lot. So, a distance between me and Ishvara, well, I feel it is some kind of a physical distance, and or distance in terms of time. I may become one with Ishvara after the death of this body, etc. Nothing of that sort. Right now, if avidya upad, the distance is just in the form of ignorance between you and Ishvara. So, well, you are manomaya as a Ishvara also, or you are manomaya as a jiva also. It's up to you what you should take. But I am manomaya. I don't know about Ishvara. Then Mahavakya has not been taken into account. When you take into Mahavakya into account, there, when who is Sarvagneha Sarvavit and who has manifested in the form of the entire Jagat, that Atma alone, that Ishvara alone is called Manomaya. Oh, combined. That's Mahavakya. Anyway, okay, this is one. So now he is, because it has manifested in the subtle body, so and then, well, we have to recognize in the buddhi, etc. Well, it's fine. So, well, I am recognizing in the buddhi as a manomaya. That's clear now. Second thing is, because what has manifest is non-separate from the Brahman. So here in the mind also every thought is non-separate from the consciousness present in the buddhi. And so I recognize myself as the Atma, consciousness, Ishvara, and these thoughts are variable. I am the invariable in all the thoughts, etc., etc. I am the Satyam, and these thoughts, etc., are non-separate from me, etc. So I am Manomaya is very fine. Now second is another part of the subtle body is been taken here. And with that upadhi, well, the same Ishvara has been called as a Prana Sharira Nita. And Prana means which is subtle. And subtle, and it is also a Sharira because it obtains within the body. So, Prana Sharira means refers to the subtle body. And Prana Sharira Neta, so, well, which carries this subtle body from this body to other body. Then Jiva carries. That's true, very much true. But who is Jiva? Swami, Jiva carries, Atma cannot carry. The Brahman which has manifested in the Buddhi means, well, it is just recognized there that Brahman is manifest in the form of entire Jagat which is all pervading Brahman, etc., etc. That cannot carry anything. Jiva carries. Okay, but then who is Jiva? The same Brahman conditioned by the subtle body or a given physical body. That is called, well, ultimately Jiva. So conditioned by the subtle body, let's say, is Jiva, which leaves this body. So alone leaves the physical body. But then conditioned, Atma conditioned by that subtle body is Jiva. But that carries, right? Yeah, but then this is from the standpoint of a Upadhi. The subtle body goes. And therefore you say this, well, Atma goes. But Atma cannot go anywhere. So I gave you example of a pot space, right? Pot moves. And therefore conditioned space moves. Pot space is a conditioned space. A conditions by the pot moves. Space does not move, right? Space does not move, but this conditioned space moves. But really speaking, pot moves, right? Pot moves, and so when you look upon the space from the standpoint of a pot, total space from the standpoint of a pot, then you say, well, pot space move because the pot moves. You are looking down from the standpoint of a pot, and therefore you can say, yeah, pot space move. But really speaking, it is just space. It cannot move, and therefore pot space moves also is a really a idea which is just a superimposition. It cannot be said. So same way the Atma cannot. It's all pervading like space. It cannot move. Only subtle body goes, and therefore the Atma which is manifest in the form in the subtle body, in the mind, etc. Well, definitely seems to move, but but the Atma as such does not move. And so this is how Prana Sharirinita, even though Atma carries this subtle body from one body to the other, means it goes along with it, but really speaking, it is from the standpoint of the subtle body, while the Atma which is all pervading, when we look upon from the standpoint of a subtle body, we say it moves. Could you follow? Like the same, the whole space from the standpoint of a pot, you look upon from the standpoint of a pot, then you say pot space moves. But really speaking, it's not. Because Atma is, basically there is no place where Atma is not actually, and therefore there is no question of movement at all. Anyway, so Prana Sharirinita. So there's another one. So from the standpoint of a subtle body, he is called a Jiva. Same Atma, same Brahman is called Jiva from the standpoint of a subtle body. And then subtle body goes from one place to other. So, well, the consciousness conditioned by the subtle body called Jiva also moves. Like, same way. Like pot space moves, same way this Jiva also goes from one body to the other. Because it says carries. Carries means it goes along with. It carries the subtle body. Means it goes along with. Then how Atma can go? Because it's all pervading. So from the standpoint of subtle body. Just as pot moves, so can be called pot space moves. Same as subtle body moves, we say Atma moves. Because a conditioned consciousness. Anyway, then Anne Pratishtitaha, the Atma abides in the physical body. And Annam means Annamaya. In the physical body. Well, which is nothing but a, physical body is nothing but a modification of the food which is eaten. And in that it is abiding. Atma is abiding in this physical body. How? How does it abide? Hridayam Sannidhaya, so presiding over the buddhi, naturally. Atma cannot manifest in the physical body. Otherwise, it is here itself you can recognize consciousness, right? Here itself. But just like a bulb is there, right? But in bulb, suppose that filament is not there. Then the electricity cannot manifest. It requires a filament. And the same way here also, in physical body, the consciousness of Brahman abides, Atma abides, but Hridayam Sannidhaya. Definitely, by being the basis of the buddhi, being the adhisthana of the buddhi, it abides in the physical body. Buddhi or the subtle body is in the given physical body. And therefore, and it manifests there, it is adhisthana of that subtle body. And what is Adhisthana? What is the basis? Well, definitely consciousness is one which provides an existence to the subtle body, and also consciousness to the body, to the subtle body. And that is how we said buddhi becomes conscious. That's how Divye Brahmapure. So consciousness, well, lends consciousness. Consciousness lends consciousness to the buddhi. And that's how buddhi becomes conscious. Consciousness provides an existence, because consciousness is existence, provides existence to the buddhi. That is how consciousness is the basis for the buddhi. Just as a clay is a basis for the pot, it provides the existence, it reveals the pot, etc. etc. Same way. So clay is a basis for the pot, same way consciousness is a basis for the buddhi. And that's how buddhi becomes conscious, and that's how you are able to recognize consciousness or Brahman in the buddhi. In the every thought, every bodha, every cognition as an invariable factor in the buddhi. Right? So there is a satyam in the buddhi, and thought, etc. is a variable which is non-separate from the satyam, etc. So that's how Manomaya also is very beautifully said there. Anyway, so there are no two things, Atma and Ishvara, etc. Because Ishvara covers one's physical body, Ishvara covers one's subtle body, and well, definitely, and the senses also. And therefore, and same Ishvara is a consciousness, and therefore all that is here is nothing but Ishvara alone. So this Jiva is told that you are Ishvara alone, because whatever is there, so is nothing but Ishvara. Consciousness is Ishvara. Every thought is Ishvara. Mind is Ishvara. Senses are Ishvara. Everything is Ishvara. And therefore, ultimately, because he has manifested into all the forms through Maya Upadhi, and therefore he is in all the forms. And he is the very basis of all the names and forms as a consciousness, Brahman. Same Brahman is available here with the mind, etc. But I was telling as an individual because of avidya upadhi, and well, that individuality is basically gone. So jiva is beginningless because of a karma, and a physical body is given, a physical body is born, and due to ignorance of the true nature, well, jiva identifies with this physical body and thinks it is separate from everybody else. This individuality, well, then cannot remove unless you remove the ignorance. It will continue. It will perpetuate also. And therefore, in order to remove that, well, so individuality is born because of, I told you, the ignorance. So in order to remove the ignorance, well, the Shruti reveals Tattvamasi. So when avidya goes away, you find everything is Ishvara alone. Where is Jiva? What is called Jiva? It is no more entity. So through avidya, I feel that I am an entity. I am this physical body, I am this subtle body, etc., etc. I am human being, this, etc. But when avidya goes away, you realize everything is Ishvara here. Nothing is, what consciousness also is Ishvara, and what is non-separate from consciousness, this physical body, subtle body, everything is Ishvara alone. So consciousness alone is the truth of all the subtle bodies. Consciousness alone is the truth of all the physical bodies. And and therefore all the bodies are pervaded and sustained by the consciousness alone. And consciousness identified with the total physical bodies, all the physical bodies, well, says I am Virat. And consciousness identified with all the subtle bodies is called, he says I am Hiranyagarbha. And consciousness, well, at a causal level, Maya Upadhi, he says I am Ishvara. But ultimately Hiranyagarbha includes also one subtle body, and this Virat includes my physical body, and therefore Ishvara swallows individuality. Well, when Ishvara says I am, his I pervades up to my physical body. Everything is included there. I am Virat, so it is included. That's what Bhagavan showed. Bhagavan showed, see, everything in my mouth, all are there. All are there. My eye sense pervades entire world. Just as my eye sense pervades entire physical body, his eye sense pervades entire physical universe, entire subtle universe. That's called Hiranyagarbha or Brahma. And at a causal level, well, he says, I am Ishvara, at a level of Maya, etc. So basically none has an entity actually. So if one wants to gain the status of being an entity, one should go for, the only entity, that is Purusha, this Akshar Purusha. Well, and it is not really an entity. Purusha is the one because of which everything gains an status of being an entity. And so one, when looks upon as a Purusha, then one's individuality is basically swallowed by Ishvara. So what is left is one limitless consciousness that pervades the total as well as individual upadhis. They are mithyas, but having their basis in Atma. All the bodies basically have borrowed existence from the Brahman, that is basis. All the bodies, and they are evident. They are objects of knowledge, etc., because consciousness pervades. Therefore, basically, all this thing is pervaded by one consciousness alone. That is the basis, that is Atma. And therefore, what is there is just Ishvara. Anyway, this is over. Tad vijnanena dhiraha paripashyanti. Tad vijnanena, by the knowledge of Atma Tattva, like this. So, prefix V is there. Tad jnanena also can be said Tad vijnanena. So, Bhashyakara says, well, V prefix is there, therefore we should give some meaning. So, he said vijnanena means vishishtena. Jnanena. Vishishtena means what? Shastra Acharya Upadeshena. Upadesha Janitena Jnanena. Shastra Acharya Upadesha Janitena. By the teaching of the Shastra, with the help of a teacher, this knowledge is born. Janitena. So the knowledge is born. Therefore it is Vishesha Jnanam. And therefore it is called Vijnanam. Vishesha Jnanam is Vijnanam. And therefore it is not born of someone's personal experience. It is born of Shastra. Shastra is a pramana. And therefore, basically, pramana gives the knowledge, right? And therefore, source of ultimately is Mahavakya, we can say. And such knowledge only would be complete and would not leave anything to be desired, well, if the student is a qualified person. So that says here, Shamadama Dhyana Sarvatyaga Vairagya Udbhutena. So qualification of Adhikari also are listed by Acharya here. Shama, Dama, Dhyana, Sarvatyaga, Vairagya Udbhutena. So here, they say Shamadama is basically discipline. We saw that also. Sensory discipline is Damaha. And discipline at the level of mind. And what is discipline at the level of mind is certain, the thoughts, varieties of the thoughts will arise in a person's head. All types of thoughts can arise, depending upon sattva, rajas, tamas, and depending upon one's likes and dislikes. Thought will arise, definitely. But the discipline is, after it arises, there you cannot do anything. Later you should allow certain thoughts to continue, or you can even perpetuate. Certain thoughts should be nipped into the bud itself. That is discipline. That's called shamaha. And dama is sensory discipline. Certain things, thinking that in the world there is a garbage and I should not allow a garbage to enter into. And so that is a sensory discipline. Closing the gates. And these are the gates. So not allow each and everything. Sometimes even in a food also there is a garbage, really. So once it goes into your stomach, after 2-3 hours you realize that you have eaten garbage. Till then, garbage is not looked upon as a garbage. Later we find what I have eaten. So at every sensory level, the object can be a garbage also. And so certain things should be allowed, certain things should not be allowed. I told you, entry-exit point is this tongue. And so there a discipline itself is required, where the entry is and where the exit is. So exit in terms of the words, entry in terms of the food. So definitely so this we have seen actually. So Bhashyakara says, this person can understand this Vijnanam. He can gain this Atma Tattvam, that I am Ishvara. I am in all the names and forms. I am not this one mind. It's Ajnanam. I am this mind. I am this body is Ajnanam. I am all the minds and all the bodies. because they are all non-separate from the consciousness. Consciousness alone manifests in all the names and forms. That is an essence that has landed the existence, and that has landed the even consciousness. Whole world is evident because there is self-evident Atma. Whole world is existent because there is a self-existent Atma, which is Satyam. And therefore, I am that Atma. Oh, I am not an individual who is identified with this particular body, etc. So, I am not Jiva, conditioned with one body. I am all-pervading Atma, who is manifest in the form of Jagat. And therefore, there is no distance between me and Ishvara. The distance was in terms of ignorance, which has gone. So, but to know this, to appreciate it, one is required to have a qualification. And that qualification is Shramadam, etc. And then Bhashyakara says, Sarvatyaga Vairagya Udbhutena. So, Sarvatyaga. So, they say, and readiness to renounce everything. Means what? Readiness to renounce everything means what? So, they say, before one can say that I am everything, right? Well, one should be able to realize that everything belongs to Ishvara. First thing is this. First, you should say what? When even ignorance is there, even when ignorance is there, you should say, here whatever is there belongs to Ishvara alone. That much one should say. So nothing belongs to me. Jiva, basically this, who is loaded with lot of things, he should become light. That's a devotion. Where ego becomes very light. He say, all bhaktas will say that. Whatever is there, is all belong to Ishvara. Nothing belongs to me. Whatever, no, your glory, I have no glory. Your glory means my mind glory, it's Ishvara's glory. My physical body, you are seeing some glory, that also Ishvara's glory. My intellect, you are seeing some glory, that is Ishvara's glory, because Ishvara alone has manifested. This is the first step. So, before you say you are everything, you should say everything belongs to Ishvara. And then, which in turn removes the sense of mine, etc. Sense of mine will go away. And then, one will be able to say, I am everything. But then I am able to, I have to hold on to few things as mine, right? I have to hold on few things as mine. Yeah. So, but then how this renunciation takes place? So, in renunciation, even if there are few possessions, there cannot be a sense of ownership. Then what sense will be there? What sense? What are the things which are there on my table? I say it is mine. This is mine. This is mine. This is mine. Then it does not. They don't belong to me. No. Then who is owner? Ishvara is owner. That's how I said. So ownership I don't have. Okay. Then what ship I have? So I am saying mine. Yeah, you continue to say it's yours. You continue to say, but appreciate that you are not owner. Then what should I appreciate? I am a trustee. It has been given to me by a giver. It has been given to me for usage. That's all. It does not belong to me. This trustee is a one. These trustees of different institutes, you can see that they have that. They always think about the welfare of that. They are not owner of the whole property, but they manage, they maintain, because the trust has been kept on them by whoever, maybe people, by a chairman or anybody who has kept a trust and says that you manage these things properly for the welfare of the society, etc., whatever. Trusts generally are for the welfare of the people. That's how it is. And so they are very clear that we are not owner of this particular property, but it has been, a trust has been, landed on us for managing the things properly, for welfare, etc. Same way, this body, I am a trustee, is been given to me by a giver, by owner, for the purpose of gaining this knowledge, etc., moksha, etc. So for few possessions which you call as mine, etc., even wealth, etc. also. Wealth belongs to Lakshmi and Lakshmi belongs to Vishnu, and therefore ultimately nothing belongs to us. And really, a sense of ownership, a strong sense of ownership will not allow you to appreciate Ishvara. No. Ishvara means who is the owner of everything. Because he manifests in the form of this through Maya. And therefore, this is the first step. And then later will be, well, since I and Ishvara are one alone, then I can say I am everything. Just as Ishvara says I am everything, I can also say. But when ignorance is there and you and Ishvara are different, Dvaita Drashti is there, then you can say I am a trustee. Certain things are given. Pujya Swami used to tell that, given. Everything is given. Everything is given. Whatever the powers you have, all are given. So appreciate Ishvara when things are there with you, appreciate the Ishvara. That's how it is. Anyway, so this is how Tad Vijnani. So by this knowing me as the consciousness and knowing as all the whole world which is non-separate from the consciousness. Everything is me alone. This is Sarvatma Bhava. This is called Sarvatma Bhava. Where you say you are everything. Then Ishvara also says you are everything. And therefore there is no distance between you and Ishvara. You are Brahman. Brahman is Jagat Karana Ishvara. And therefore you are Ishvara. This is the equation. Clean equation. So, and then, okay, Tad Vijnani, so then, well, what benefit will be there? One looks for, some benefit in every knowledge. So, what would one gain by this, knowing this Atma Tattva? So, Yat Ananda Rupam Amritam Vibhati. Yat Ananda Rupam Amritam Vibhati. That which shines by itself is of the nature of fullness, basically, and immortal. So, Shankaracharya ji says, well, Ananda Rupam Sarva Anartham Dukkhayasa Prahinam. So one becomes free from all types of anartha. Anartha means undesirable things. Undesirable things is all types of the thing which no human being wants. Certain things are undesirable for every human being. Certain things are undesirable for a given human being, for a particular human being. Yeah. And so basically, the things which are undesirable for a particular person, that's an issue of that person. We do not bother. That depends upon one's raga dvesha. That's another thing. That's a different criteria. It's a jiva srushti. But here, persons become free from undesirable for the entire humanity. You become free by this knowledge. That's a phalam. And that you know very well, I need not have to describe. And that is, become free from all undesirable things called dukkha, etc., shoka, etc., and limitations, dependence, all these things. Anxiety, stress, strain. These are all jiva srushti. So far, Ishvara does not have. I'm sure. I have not taken his interview, but I'm very sure, because there is no reason. There is no other thing, There is no second thing which can create a stress. To have a stress, there should be something other than you. Something. Maybe other person. Maybe other object. Something, but which is other than you. Now, if he says, I am everything, and there is nothing other than Ishvara, where is the question of a stress? Where is the question of a stress? And this stress, strain, etc., anxiety, all these things, basically, is no human being wants. No human being wants. It occurs, actually. It's unwanted. It occurs in one's head due to this Dvaita Drishti alone. So anyway, by knowing this Atma, ultimately one gains Ananda Rupam. One gains Ananda. In form of what? In form of experience? No. In form of oneself. In form of oneself. So it is, I am Ananda Sarupa, or I am, that is his phalam. So there is no Ananda Anubhava actually, but there is, in Ananda Anubhava there is self. That's a different thing. But basically, he says, I am an Ananda Sarupa. This experiential happiness occurs in the mind. We should know this difference between Ananda, the nature as Ananda, and the experience Ananda, experiential Ananda. So experience happiness is always in the mind, and in experience of happiness, well, the mind assumes basically a particular thought mode, which we call Shanta Vritti. Why we call Shanta Vritti? Because when that occurs, and the conclusion that I am unhappy, I am inadequate, I am limited, etc., is negated when the mind is quiet. That's called Shanta Vritti. When the mind is quiet, I am inadequate, I am basically limited, I am unhappy, etc., is negated. And in that negation, actually, Atma is recognized. Yeah. When there is a Shanta Vritti, because consciousness is manifest in the Buddhi. So when this in Shanta Vritti, well, the same Atma is recognized as free from any sense of limitation. That's called happiness, actually. That is called happiness. And so Sattvika Vritti, they say sometime, because Sattva is responsible for Sukham, Shanti, etc., for Jnanam, etc. And therefore, sometimes they call Sattvika Vritti, sometimes they call Shanta Vritti. And any person can gain it. This experiential Ananda in form of this Shanta Vritti, where for a moment that I am a limited being is dropped, that anyone can gain. And then anyone can gain means Bhagavan chooses to give to somebody. No, it is karma phala. Yeah, it's a karma phala. That's how Sukha is a karma phala. So that anyone can gain. So this happiness keeps a person basically going, This experiential happiness, it is required. So Bhagavan has done all this arrangement according to karmas and karma phalas. So whole that within the law of karma, this is an arrangement. Very beautiful arrangement. When one recognizes that I will not have even any moment of happiness in my life henceforth, he would not want to live. People commit suicide because of this only. Anyway, so this experiential or experience Ananda reveals Atma as a Ananda Sarupa naturally, because there is a Shanta Vritti, and where you drop the limitation centered on the self. Nimitta could be anything. Nimitta could be anybody's joke. Nimitta could be you have seen something very beautiful in the creation. Nimitta could be a child which is laughing. Anything could be nimitta. But this Shanta Vritti will arise. And that depends upon your karma phala only, definitely. And so this experience Ananda reveals the Atma as Ananda Sarupa, and it is just oneself. So in Ananda there is freedom from limitations, and so limitlessness is the Sarupa of Ananda, and therefore Atma alone manifests in the it has manifested in the Buddhi, but you have recognized at this moment as in form of an experience basically. So because I am limited, that notion goes away. Time being, when you get a desired object. When you get a desired object, that your mind which was seeking, that seeking goes away. So I am adequate, inadequate, etc. just gets dropped there. And this limitlessness which is Sarupa Atma, is experienced in different degrees, whenever there is a Shanta Vritti. In terms of Priya Moda and Pramoda. Priya Moda, Pramoda. Depending upon your karma phala. It's a degree. Naturally karma phala. Yeah. Swarupa does not have any degree. Experience Ananda has this degree. It is born of a karma phala. Swarupa is not born of a karma phala. It is. What is born of karma phala is other than you. Anyway. So it is only at the time, but that is you that you can recognize very well. Happiness is just you, nothing else. That you can very well recognize. I don't have a knowledge, that's another thing. But in a moment of happiness, one is just oneself as a person. One is just oneself, nothing else. Even subject-object division, etc. goes away. Subject-object division goes away means the limitations had gone away. Yeah, I am a limit. When you say I am a subject, you are object, means already there is a limitations. And therefore, the subject-object division gets resolved. That resolves even in the deep sleep state, and therefore there is a joy. But you don't experience that. Yes, I mean, because the mind which is there is resolved. Right now in the waking state, it is still there, and so mind is there, and there is a shanta vritti, and so you experience that sukha, which is nothing but yourself. And there also subject-object division goes away. Here also subject-object division goes away. That's how we say this Dvaitam creates a Dukkham. Where there is Advaitam, there is Sukham. That's how it is. Subject-object division creates a limitation. That limitation in the body, well, it will be there. Limitation in the mind will be there. Limitation in the senses will be there. Limitation centered on oneself. Taking body-mind sense complex as oneself creates a Dvaitam. When you say, I am this, over. You said everything is this. I am body. Everything becomes this. I am this. When you create basically a idea that you have a certain dimension of this body, mind, sense complex, definitely, I mean, you have some measurements. I am this. Everything is other than I. That's a division. That division so long persists, limitation on centered on that I, which is taken as a body-mind complex, persist. And that gets dissolved in a moment of joy. You are basically, the conclusion that I am unhappy, inadequate, limited, well, is negated. Anything becomes a nimitta, and mind becomes quiet. Mind which has projected this duality out of ignorance has gone temporarily, for a moment, or for a few hours in a deep sleep state. Then when the mind is quiet, the consciousness which has really manifest there, now you experience that, right? Which is free from limitation. So you feel centered on I, there is no sense of limitation in the moment of joy. That's how we say happiness and limitlessness or fullness is one and the same thing. Anyway, so, and other way also I told you, when in a moment of joy, you are just yourself. You are just yourself. And that is how you are with yourself. Either way. You are yourself, nothing else. Then subject-object division also is not there. And therefore, you are of the nature of happiness or fullness or ananda. Anyway, but this vritti will not remain for a long. That's for sure. That this vritti will not remain for a long, because being a karma phala, it goes away also. And it's good. It's good. Otherwise, one vritti will get stuck, and then the other vritti will not arise at all. Then whatever I am saying, that also will not be able to listen, because accordingly the shabdakar vritti should arise, but now this vritti has arisen and now it has stuck there. So it is retained there. So it doesn't happen that way. So that's how experiential ananda is. It goes away. It's a karma phala, it goes away. Anyway, so regardless of whether the shanta vritti is there or not, I continue to be the limitless consciousness. Only in the vritti, in the shanta vritti, etc., while the mind becomes quiet, then definitely, Atma is recognized or experience rather, as free from any sense of limitation. So I does not have any sense of limitation when this mind becomes quiet. No more Dvaitam, and definitely you experience yourself as free from limitations. Anyway, and therefore this is Sukham experienced. But basically, whether it remains or there or not, I, the consciousness, is always a limitless consciousness, and therefore I recognize as a jnana phalam is this I am Ananda Sarupa, which alone manifests in the moments of experience of joy. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.